A good afternoon. Today we begin a new Mishnah, Mishnah 7, and this one is from Nitai Harbeli, Nitai who lived in Arbel, to the north of Israel. It's kind of following up from the previous Mishnah. The previous Mishnah discussed things that we should do. We should get a teacher, we should acquire a friend, and we should judge everyone favorably. This is telling you things you shouldn't do. Nitai Harbeli Omer. Nitai Harbeli says, Harchek mishachein ra. Distance yourself from a bad neighbor. V'al tischaber larasha, and do not attach yourself to a rasha, to a wicked person. V'al tisyaesh min ha'puranus, and do not lose hope of payment of basically a punishment. Don't lose hope of that. So we're gonna not worry about that part for today. Today we'll concentrate on the first two, which is to distance yourself from a bad neighbor and not to attach yourself to a wicked person. So they're not exactly the same. There's a lot of interlap in terms of the commentaries, but they're definitely independent ideas, especially one says distance yourself, does the other one just says don't attach yourself, and one says someone who's ra, bad, rasha is like a wicked person, not the same exact wording. So first of all, little context. This Nitai Harabeli, he lived during the time we mentioned there were Sadducees and Boticians. Those were the people who had rejected the oral Torah. So during his lifetime, they were pretty influential, and people were gravitating to them because of their power, their success, their wealth, etc. So that's maybe part of his idea of saying don't hang out with people who are wicked, or don't get too close to a bad neighbor, even though there's other things that you think they're bringing to the table. He was living through times where that was a certainly very practical, although it's practical at all times as well. So Rabbeinu Yonah starts off. He says, "We're talking here to somebody who's you're looking for a place to live. You know, you have to figure out where you're going to live, and you say, which neighborhood should I live in? I'm going to live in the neighborhood of the nicest houses, right? Or something like that." He says, wait, you can check out the neighbors. Don't just look at the housing. Look at who's living there. Are the people who are living there are going to be a positive influence, or are they going to be a negative influence? And if they're going to be a negative influence, that's not the place for you to live. And that is maybe the top level of priority is what's going to happen if you move to that area. How are you going to be affected? And this is spiritually, could be financially and emotionally, and just in terms of your, day to day. Sometimes some people are gonna hurt you. They're gonna hurt you emotionally. Or they're gonna take advantage of you. So that also the why we're distancing ourselves from a bad neighbor, because we don't want to learn from their actions. One is you don't want to get hurt. That could be an issue. The other is to learn from their bad ways. If they're doing things that are inappropriate, if they're behaving in manners that are either socially inappropriate or Jewishly inappropriate, then we don't want to learn from that. So that's the idea of distancing yourself. And Bjorn points out, there are some people who are bad, and we spoke about that the other day with the judging people favorably. So don't be naive and judge people favorably automatically when it comes to where you're going to park yourself and spend a lot of your time. And he says it's better. You may not have. Sometimes we live in places where we don't have a lot of friends, so you're desperate for a friend. Better not to have friends than to have a bad friend. You're better to just be on your own rather than to connect with people who are going to be a negative influence. We have a from the Torah. It's probably numerous examples, but one of the most famous example is the story of Korach, where the group that joined him was from the tribe of Reuven, and Reuven's places where they stayed, where they camped, was close to the side of the camp where Korach was. So therefore, that's why they connected, because they were neighbors. And Rashi, in fact, quotes the idea that says, "Oy la rasha ol l'shchena," woe is to the wicked person, woe is to his neighbor. That if you're neighbors with someone who's bad, you're going to get sucked up in it. Two things are going to happen. One is you chances are you'll be very likely to be influenced negatively. But even besides that, you also get caught up in the consequences. When you are engaged or connected with people who are bad, you can get into the trouble that they get into as well when it comes to consequences. And this is again both from Hashem directly, or it could be even through the court system as well. Could end up happening. One of the things I say is that when you're talking about your neighbors is that, at least, we in Ottawa, we only see our neighbors about 7 or 8 months a year. We don't see our neighbors for starting now, right? Starting now, you won't be seeing your neighbors till March, right? So maybe during that season, it's not as big a deal. But the concept is that we have to be careful who we're interacting with. Tiferes Yisrael points out also there are certain, some people have neighbors who are the type of people who are angry and make a big deal about everything, or it could be just someone who you get friendly with, and a person is an arrogant person, a jealous person. But all of these things are going to be damaging to you, both again personally as well as spiritually. It's not good. It's not good for your ultimate soul as well. Now, talking about being distancing ourselves from a neighbor doesn't have to be just a person. It could be also the environment that we're in. Sometimes you get into an environment of just type of behavior that's inappropriate, that's just worthless, negative, etc. Sometimes even dangerous, and that's also included in this. To stay away from corrupt environments, and a lot of times it's very hard to do that because you don't even realize that you're in that until it's too late. A lot of times we don't realize what's going on around us until it's too late. We're so immersed in whatever the environment that we're in that we don't necessarily see the negativity. Now, a neighbor usually means a neighbor does mean someone who's close to you physically, right? They're in your physical proximity, and that's why the Mishnah says distance yourself, so that because we're talking about proximity. The person when it talked about the Rasha, the wicked person, it didn't say distance yourself. It said don't attach yourself. Don't tischaber. The translation we had said don't befriend, from the word chaver, but it's the same. The idea is to connect yourself. Don't be connected to the Rasha, because a neighbor by definition is close to you. So therefore, the way to avoid it is to be not so close. Stay away. The Rasha, that person doesn't have to be your neighbor, and it could still be a negative influence. So it doesn't say distance yourself there. It says don't connect. Because if the person's far away, then their influence on you is less, right? There's less likelihood that you're going to be negatively influenced when the person is a distance away from you. And I mentioned we had the two different terms, Rasha and Ra. So the idea of Ra is that Ra means that the person is evil or does evil things. Could also mean that it's terms of between us, not between the person and God, but between us. That between humans, that person does bad things to other people. They just are a bad person in that way. A Rasha could generally also mean that in terms of their interactions with Hashem, they're doing things that they shouldn't be. They're acting wrong, and that would be a different context, and it also affects how your connection is. That a person who is a Rasha, so that person is maybe more bad towards Hashem, and maybe a very nice person. So even there, don't get too close, so you don't get negatively influenced in terms of your connection to God. On the other hand, someone who's Ra, that person is, in terms of their interpersonal actions, that person is evil. That person is bad. They're doing things that are wrong to other people. They may be doing all kinds of good things in terms of other mitzvahs and keeping and connecting to Hashem and however they're doing it. That's not good enough. That's also problematic. Don't connect to them, because those people are, if they don't have proper interpersonal relationships, then that person is also a very terrible influence, and you should stay away from that person as well. And we'll hold it there for today and finish it.